In this episode of IdeaCity,
our mind is continuously distorting our reality to a point that does not resemble our true existence. My awakening was that I was loved simply because I'm a human being.
Charles has been up, Charles has been down, Charles has been downer still, and from all that experience has a message for us. This is Charles Hanna. This is his book, Higher. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you, Moses. Thank you, Moses, and thank you for having me here. Good evening, everyone. My topic today is about happiness, assuming you're not going to have a head transplant. What is happiness? Is it what we get when we achieve our dreams? Is that why we work so hard to achieve them? Some people say that happiness is a frame of mind. Others say it's all about living in the moment. Harvard did an 80-year study and concluded that happiness is about relationships and love. But if happiness is that simple, why is it so elusive? How come so many watch their life waste by and only hoping that perhaps one day they'll be truly happy? Many people have everything it takes to be really happy but aren't. There are some people who are happy and don't even know it. It's perplexing when you hear he did not know what he had until he lost it. So it's not just important to be happy, but it's also important to know when you are happy. Because only then you stop searching for more and you start really enjoying what you have. And this is what happened to me, and I fell in love with my life. I'm happier today than I've ever been, and I've been feeling that way for years. And tonight I'm hoping to give you some insight as to how you can achieve greater happiness regardless of your starting point. Now, many of you will remember in the early days of space exploration how everyone was fixated on reaching the moon. And no one had any idea that the greatest discovery would be made not by viewing the moon close up, but by looking at Earth from space. Our planet was breathtaking. It put our world and life in a perspective no human had ever seen before. In a similar way, the treatment of addiction helped us gain a higher perspective on the origins of happiness. Studies show that addiction is a disease of perception, and recovery requires total mental surrender from a self-centered perspective to viewing oneself as part of something much larger, similar to looking at Earth from space. Now, the rewards of surrender are priceless, but it's astonishingly scary and painful to do, as I personally experienced 30 years ago. I went into treatment for the 6th time after 8 years of a deadly cocaine addiction. I am 6'1", I weighed 127 pounds, and I was rabid with anger. I still believe it's a miracle I survived. For me, there were two choices, either total surrender or imminent death. Now, why is surrender so hard? Well, imagine what it would be like to lose all your material and sentimental possessions. Now, try to imagine having to give up all your intellectual and emotional possessions. Everything I ever knew was based on a reality that I had to abandon completely. Surrender is letting go of everything you believe in. How I saw myself, my parents, my soulmate, my daughter, all my love, my memories, my ambition, everything, my sense of everything and everyone that I knew and lived for were gone. But by totally surrendering, I started a journey into the unknown. And I found more beauty than I could have ever imagined. I also discovered that almost everything we know about ourselves and our lives is a fabrication of our mind. That our mind is continuously distorting our reality to a point that does not resemble our true existence. But just like in the movie The Matrix, when Neo woke up and found that he was living in an alternate reality, we also have the capacity to wake up, except in our case, our reality is far more beautiful than we have come to accept or even hope for. Now, fortunately, you don't have to undergo this grueling surrender to benefit from those who had to. Just like you don't have to travel to space to benefit from the discoveries made by those who did. So over the next 12, 13 minutes, I will share with you the discoveries that I made and why they changed my life so much. Okay? My first discovery was the value of my life. Now, I've always been extremely ambitious, and I'm never satisfied. And I believed that it's a virtue to always strive for more, and that people would admire me and embrace me for my accomplishments. I started out with a student loan, and by the age of 30, I had built an iconic IT company, and I made millions. I had great family, great friend, beautiful daughter. I also had the absolute confidence that I would accomplish everything I set my mind to. And the result? I was still not satisfied. Everything felt the same. Nothing changed. My success did not translate into this blissful happiness I expected. In fact, at the height of my success, I felt lost for the first time, and my dissatisfaction and frustration fueled my abuse of drugs. Now, when you think about all the tragic deaths of people even far more successful, one may ask, how can they blow it after achieving such success? And the answer for me, anyway, is that there's nothing more valuable than the basic gifts of life that we are all born with. And if something happens in our early development that robs us of the ability to enjoy them, then there's no amount of success or fame or power or looks can make up for that loss. So what are these gifts of life? Well, how much would you sell your eyes for? Or your ability to hear and see and taste and touch? What about your health and freedom and mobility? What about children, family, and friends? None of it would we sell ever. Imagine having inconceivable riches in return for total isolation, never seeing, touching, or communicating with any other human being for the rest of your life. Human contact alone is worth more than all the money there is. And there are so many more gifts. Awakening to how priceless my life was my first clue that my mind was distorting my reality. I became fixated on in pursuit of more when there's absolutely nothing that I can acquire that can compare with what I had all along. Even when my success did not bring me happiness, I still did not see it. My next discovery was my humanity. About 3 months after I went into treatment, I was sitting at a large 12-step meeting, and I suddenly grasped that even with my surrender, and even if I followed all the advice of my counselors, I might not make it. Now, I was willing to do anything to not die, but I realized that this may not be my choice anymore. And I broke down, and I started to cry uncontrollably in this meeting, out of sorrow for myself, for my life, and for my little daughter. But I'll never forget what happened next. People surrounded me and hugged me with this unexpected love. And I felt that they truly wanted to save me, like they were saving themselves too. And that got me thinking. I spent my whole life trying to be successful and attractive and funny so that people would like me. Well, here I am sobbing at this meeting, and I could not be any less attractive. I was completely bankrupt in every sense, and yet I had never felt such unconditional love, and from strangers. My awakening was that I was loved simply because I'm a human being. That's all. I did not need to be successful, I did not need to be funny, I did not need to be rich, attractive, or any of that to get that love, to feel that love. For the first time, I saw what a gift it is just to be a human being, to be one of us. You see, I've always been too proud to ask for help. I did not feel entitled, and I did not want to appear needy. Suddenly I realized I am entitled to be loved like everyone else. I belong, I can ask for help, and people will help me. My humility became my strength. And through it, I connected to our human experience, and with that, I became as strong as all humanity. That's when I knew I was going to be okay. So what is this higher perspective that I talk about? Well, during the holidays, I often find Christmas trees frustrating because they have flaws. The branches don't spiral evenly, and they have big clumps and gaps, and they interfere with my perfect placement of ornaments. But if you were to step back and look at a forest, the trees are perfect. And countless creatures rely on their natural formation to let the sun through and provide shelter. There's absolutely nothing that we can do to make Mother Nature better. Looking at one's life from a self-centered perspective is like seeing flaws in a tree for something meaningless like hanging ornaments. Every life, no matter how chaotic it looks, is a perfect piece of a much larger existence, like a tree in a forest. And our forest is breathtaking because it gave us life, it gave us everything we ever loved and cherished or can imagine in our wildest dreams. Basically, we're born at a specific place with specific attributes at a specific time for what is obviously a very specific purpose within this larger order. The more we are connected and in harmony with it, the more fulfilled we become. Our higher perspective is our ability to see our lives and everything that happens to us within that higher order. And it helps us to live in serenity with the universe instead of always trying to change it to suit our overly self-centered needs. Now, overly self-centered perception is something that I call perception disorder. Now, in the extreme, it manifests in addiction, depression, anxiety, and a variety of other mental health issues. But no one has perfect perception. And even a small distortion in your perception of reality will compromise your ability to enjoy life to the fullest. Now, how does perception disorder hurt us? It's the state of mind from which we evaluate everything by how it relates to us. If we are not invited to an event, we might think that the host does not like us. Like Moses last year, for example. Or if our partner wants to speak to a friend in privacy, we might conclude that he or she doesn't trust us or wanted to complain about us behind our back. And when these imaginings are not true, they result in distorted emotions and responses that break down our vital human connection. And perception disorder begins in childhood. If for whatever reason a child is not given adequate time and attention for regular intimate talks to help them understand the world and themselves and how to connect with other people. If we as children do not receive this grounding, it forever distorts our perception and our ability to connect with others deeply. And over time, we become increasingly isolated and unhappy. Now, how do you know where you stand in the perception disorder spectrum? Well, you can take a questionnaire on my website, higherbook.com, but it revolves around questions like, do you have resentments? Do you keep secrets? Do you have difficulty trusting people? Have others described you as being too sensitive? Or you seem to worry too much? Or you often seem sad or angry? Regardless, if you often find yourself feeling unhappy or ungrateful, or even if you've just lost the joie de vivre, chances are you have some perception disorder to some degree. Now, this perception disorder is the root cause of the illusion that I talked about at the beginning. And there are three parts to our illusion. The first part is the illusion that we own our lives. Have you ever wondered why you didn't pay anything for your life when it takes years just to pay for a car or a house? We had no say when, how long, or if we live at all. This life is not ours. It's entrusted to us for a short period of time. Yet our mind convinces us that this life belongs to us. We own it. And as a result of that, we feel shame, we feel pride, and we seek recognition for something we never created or deserve credit for. As a result of that, instead of feeling inherently happy and connected like a tree in a forest, we become anxious and increasingly isolated by continuously comparing ourselves to others. The second part of our illusion is that we take all our gifts for granted. Our minds tune out all constants like a hum that we do not even know is there until it stops. That's why we have to lose one of our gifts to appreciate its importance. Yet our mind, so instead of embracing all the gifts that we have now, we are easily distracted by petty activities and thoughts of yesterday and tomorrow and other people, places, and things, and we completely squander the most precious moments of our lives. And the third part of our illusion is that we would be happy if only things were different. And the world can change any day for any reason. And even what we fight for may turn out to be bad for us, and vice versa. Yet our minds keep telling us that we can and we must control our world to be happy. Now, meanwhile, every new day brings life's intended challenges and opportunities. And instead of embracing those, we become alienated because we are preoccupied with our own plans. And because of that, we make a lot of mistakes and we actually miss the best opportunities in life. Now, it's also easy to buy these illusions because society also baits our egos with glorified images and messages, forever luring us into believing that to be truly happy, we must be youthful, we must be young, we must be rich, we must be successful, we must be famous, important, powerful, and forever deserving of immediate gratification and relief. Now, I made you a promise at the beginning of the talk that we too have the capacity to wake up and that the rewards will be mind-blowing. I wrote my book, Higher, to show how we can align our lives in simple but crucial ways to offset the negative effects of perception disorder. Now, imagine being completely at peace with yourself, and your mind is quiet from all the noise, and you're able to see minute detail with clarity. Time seems to stand still. You're living in the moment, and you're savoring all the gifts of your life. Imagine every new day being born on a blank, fresh canvas, and life ready to paint for you a new masterpiece, not blemished with your fears or even your dreams of ornaments on a tree. Every day engaging, fresh, exciting, and full of opportunities for you to grow, fall in love, and do whatever your heart desires. Higher shows you how to be trusted guardians of your life and achieve greater happiness and serenity. And by the way, I brought many copies for free for anybody that wants to pick one up and figure out how to be that way. And I want to end my talk with just one thought, and that is, when you give up your self-centeredness and connect to something much larger, it will feel like coming home. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles.
Thank you, Moses.